Geordin's a front runner. I think he's a good candidate. But when nominations open, we need to see the full field before you place your bets at the tote.
Geordin for DA leader?
Yes.
I will back whoever is going to stand. I will make a decision on that. But let me tell you, I think Geordin Hill-Lewis will be a great leader for this party.
He's the preferred candidate whose name is on the lips of many senior DA party members.
Because if we are going to build a stronger South Africa, then we must have a stronger democratic alliance.
We sit down to lunch with Cape Town Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis on the lead. From student politics, his allegiance to Helen Zille, the George versus Steenhuisen saga, and ambitions for the union buildings, the man vying to be DA leader bears all.
I love seeing problems solved on the ground. I love spotting a problem, designing a solution, seeing it get done. I love meeting people, getting out and seeing people. So those elements are extremely meaningful to me on a really deep level, and I don't want to to lose that. And I also think it's better, frankly. I think it's better for the DA, better for the country, for the project of building an alternative to the current ANC government, that there's some distance, that there's some remove from the work of the GNU that allows me to act with a little bit more freedom and independence. The president owes me nothing. I depend on him for nothing. He's not my boss. I run the DA and I speak for the DA. Obviously, this all assumes I'm victorious and successful at Congress.
We'll end the show off with On This Day in South African History, not before Rauby's pointless Braai quiz. And today's question is, who's the notorious ex-ANC MP who'll soon wear orange overalls for pocketing Bosasa kickbacks? I'll give you the answer a little later.
New episodes of The Lead air Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m.
This is The Lead, and this is the South African Story with your host, Graeme Raubenheimer.
Moving to our top story today, he's put his hand up to lead South Africa's second biggest political party, and he wears the mayoral chain of the mother city itself. He's none other than senior DA party member and, of course, the mayor of Cape Town. He's Geordin Hill-Lewis, and he's right here on The Lead on News 24. Geordin, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm very good, Graeme. It's great to join you, I think, for the first time on The Lead. So very, very nice to join you for this conversation.
Fantastic. I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. What are you doing in Joburg at the moment?
I've come up to Joburg and Pretoria for the next 2 days to meet with DA delegates as part of the leadership campaign and to see a couple of radio stations and media houses, talk to some folks like you and a whole lot of other stuff besides as well. So it's going to be a busy 3 days here in Gauteng.
Yeah, absolutely. You helped found the Democratic Alliance's student organization at UCT once upon a time. What year was that? And is that where you started in the DA?
That was way back before the Earth's crust hardened in 2005. I started my first year at UCT, and I remember arriving at campus and thinking it was really weird how there was only one political voice on campus. There was only the ANC Youth League in its guise. Its kind of, its student brand name is SASCO. And that was it. No one else was present on campus. And I was quite surprised by that and decided to do something about it and started this little organization called DASO, which has become a big national organization now, but we had a lot of fun. The key purpose in those days was fun in student politics and a good deal of troublemaking as well. My interest in politics actually started in high school already. So when I came to varsity, I was already very interested in politics. I got interested very young, as a kind of 15 or 16-year-old, I think in grade 10, 11 maybe. I started to be fascinated by what was happening in South Africa at the time and started to read just voraciously about South Africa's history and about the democratic transition, and learning just so much about our fascinating country.
You obviously got mentored by Helen Zille very closely because you worked behind the scenes with her in her very senior positions as both mayor and premier, or just in the premier's office, Geordin?
No, I worked as an intern while I was still at varsity. I worked on her mayoral campaign when she was running for mayor. And I mean, it's amazing how life comes full circle. I now work in the office that I used to work in when she was the mayor. Then I was just a kind of volunteer intern. I used to get petrol money. That was it. And now I'm in that office as mayor. And then, I went back to varsity and finished up my degree and my honors degree. And then by that time, she was already the premier or running for premier. She was running for premier. And I started working for her full time. But I had met her earlier, just before I went to varsity. When I was in matric, I'd actually met her. And so that very wonderful friendship started very early on.
Yeah. How difficult for you personally and politically has it been in these last couple of weeks to say, you know what, I'm actually going to give this thing a shot. I'm going to put my hand up and I'm going to stand in the upcoming elective Congress to possibly replace John Steenhuisen, which I know that you have a good relationship with?
Politically, it's been quite easy, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. Personally, it's been challenging, to be honest with you, Graeme, because my family is extremely important to me. I've got a young daughter. Obviously, I've got a wonderful wife, and that is really comes first in my life. And I was very worried and, still trying to work through that anxiety about how I was going to make this work for a young family where the most important job in my life is actually that of dad. And obviously this job is a huge step up in terms of responsibility, in terms of time commitment, in terms of travel around the country. I mean, at the moment, I have the wonderful luxury. I have a very difficult job as mayor of Cape Town, but I have the luxury that even if I come home at 10:30, I still come home every single night, and I can creep into bed. Everyone's sleeping. I can kiss my daughter. I can creep into bed next to my wife. That is a luxury, which I don't take for granted. It's a blessing, actually, and so that's so that weighs heavy on my mind, and it's going to just be about making sure that I exercise maximum discipline in my diary to use my time to the best effect possible. Politically, though, that is what excites me incredibly, because and that made the decision easy, and ultimately is why I decided to go for it. Because I think we just have this incredible moment in South Africa's history where we can put South Africa on a much better and different trajectory than it's ever been, really, and start to build towards the country that we actually all deep down know is possible in South Africa. And if I can use the next 3 years, but before the next national election to 2029 to do that, then I feel like that will be a really good use of the next 3 years of my time and of my life. And it will be a worthwhile sacrifice and investment in the future of our country. So that I am very passionate about and excited by. And that ultimately is what swayed me.
Right. You've previously indicated, Geordin, that if you win, you'd obviously like to stay on as mayor. You have such a Cheshire cat, broad smile on your face when you are out on the ground,
yes,
trying to ensure service delivery across the metro. And there's plenty to celebrate in that regard. And of course, your detractors would like to say otherwise. But, what if you need to be hands-on on GNU matters? If you stay on as mayor, wouldn't there be two centres of power within the DA? Have you given this more thought, or are you sticking to your guns?
I'm sticking to my guns. The reason for that Cheshire cat grin is it's entirely authentic. I love the job. I love seeing problems solved on the ground. I love spotting a problem, designing a solution, seeing it get done. I love meeting people, getting out and seeing people. So those elements are extremely meaningful to me on a really deep level, and I don't want to lose that. And I also think it's better, frankly. I think it's better for the DA, better for the country, for the project of building an alternative to the current ANC government, that there's some distance, that there's some remove from the work of the GNU that allows me to act with a little bit more freedom and independence. The president owes me nothing. I depend on him for nothing. He's not my boss. I run the DA and I speak for the DA. Obviously, this all assumes I'm victorious and successful at Congress. So I think it's much healthier. Obviously, it does divide your time, but an important point to make is when you are successful in politics, you always have to do several things at the same time. The president is the president of the ANC and runs the government. The other senior leaders of that party are all in ministerial positions and run the party at various levels. So too with leaders in the DA. So basically the rule is, if you win in politics, you're going to have 2 jobs, at least, sometimes even 3. And so you have to get used to that. You can't run away from that. So yes, I have to get used to it. It will be an adjustment, but I have to do it and succeed.
Right. Who's been your favorite DA leader in the past since 1994? And what policy of theirs would you like to replicate? Now, you've got to be honest, Geordin. I need an honest answer here.
Look, I'm definitely, I think, in my professional career, closest to Helen. I've worked for Helen one-on-one for many years, and we have a really great relationship. She's a person of incredible integrity. But to be honest with you, so obviously as a kind of mentor, I've been closest to Helen. But I get on very well with all the DA leaders. Tony remains a dear friend to this day. I call him for advice, and usually his advice is caustic and acerbic. Whenever I moan about what's happening in the city to Tony, he says to me, "Well, no one's forcing you to be there, so suck it up." That's his famous line. I lean on all of them. Even to be honest with you, I had a great relationship with Musi right up until the end, and really enjoyed our time together. So I feel like we've and then of course now John is a dear friend and always will be, and our kids are friends and so on. So it's hard to say. I feel like a father being asked to choose a favorite, but I think just because of the sheer amount of time that I have spent with her on the road, in the trenches, disagreeing on some things and agreeing on many other things, and everything in between, I remain very close to Helen.
Looking at your acceptance speech in Alsies River just the other day, Geordin, you've made it very, very clear that you want the DA to be a lot more inclusive than ever before, and you want to attract more black voters to the party, to support the party and to vote the party into various structures of power. How are you going to do that?
So I used the phrase in that speech, closing the gap between the DA and the people, many South Africans who have never voted for us before, or they may have voted for us at one point in the past, but haven't since, or they might be thinking about it but haven't quite yet got to that point. And that closing the gap entails a couple of things. But for me personally, obviously it has to also, my work must reflect my personality. It means being present. I love to meet people, to be in their communities, to listen to the very practical problems that they have, to talk about how we might solve those problems together. And I look forward to doing that. I'm going to spend a lot of time on the ground around the country, in every corner of our beautiful country, meeting the people who I have a huge amount of affection for, and who I would love to have vote for the DA in the future. And I think from that relationship building comes a certain trust building over time. And from that trust building makes it easier to make the decision to actually support a party at the polls. So that's one way, but there's other ways as well. We have to, for example, show wherever we are in government that we govern better for everyone. And I'm very proud that we've demonstrated that beyond a shadow of doubt in Cape Town, that no matter where you are, what community you're from, where you are born, you will get a better deal with the DA in government. Where the DA is, there things will work, people will get into work. That, I think, is an important thing that we have to establish for every South African.
Right. Look, the DA and the GNU was never going to always be perfect sailing. There's always going to be some things that come up along the way. We've had the, let's start here very quickly, and I'm very aware of time here, and I do need to let you go soon, but the John Steenhuisen saga. I mean, essentially you have a very senior DA member, Deon George, leaving the party and accusing the leader of essentially being captured by criminal interests and the ANC. Was it quite difficult for you to watch all of this play out?
Absolutely. Very, very, and disgraceful and most distasteful. I mean, the fact is, no one ever is guaranteed any position in politics. Politics is a contact sport, and it entails lots of shifts, lots of swings and roundabouts, and you can't take personal offense when things don't work out in your favor. I mean, this is some of the disagreement I had with Moosey back then as well. But you can't get offended and storm out when things don't work out in your favor. You have to stick to the values and the cause, stick to your guns and rebuild. And so no one in the GNU caucus from the DA should feel as though they are entitled to those positions. There are only 6 of them, I think, yes. That should feel as though they are entitled to those positions and that they have permanent claim on them. That's just that's a crazy thought. And so if and when you are removed, you shouldn't fight a war of a kind of scorched earth war against those who have removed you. That's fair game. That's what you sign up for. And that will happen to me as well, by the way. One day that'll happen to me, and I hope you'll remind me of these words, Graeme. But I will never take that same approach, which I think is deeply, what is the word? Kind of immature, destructive, self-referential, self-aggrandizing. It's very, very unhelpful.
Right, because, we have also Minister Dean Macpherson at the moment in a very critical position, facing a public protector's complaint because he took a spouse with overseas on a Brazil official working trip. The DA internally, according to Zille, has cleared him somewhat. But again, it's raising all sorts of questions at the moment. I just wanted to get your very quick take on that. Should ministers or DA ministers be allowed to take spouses overseas?
Well, the problem is that there's no rule that's been broken because the rules actually allow you to do that, and it's a very common practice. The question is, should it be done? Now, I think that the DA probably needs to have a discussion and a policy document on that, which we don't have at the moment, but we've never been in a position of having these ministerial jobs. So we've got to tighten up our internal rules and have a clear policy directive on that. And I think what should guide that policy directive is that every person, every single South African looking at the DA must be able to tell that we are clearly, meaningfully, markedly different from those we are trying to replace. And they should be able to see that difference, point to that difference, feel that difference. And that has to come through in everything that we do. Obviously, that must come through in the way that we govern. That's the most important. The things that we do, we get things working, we build institutions, but it also has to come through in the way that we, the conduct, the way, the decisions we make, and so on. So that is something that I'm going to have to address if I am successful at Congress on the 12th of April, to tighten up those rules and make sure that is well understood.
If you may quickly, as we count out the last 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor, put your mayor's hat on very quickly and cast your mind back to at the end of 2025 last year. The president goes to the National Council of Provinces and he claims that the city of Cape Town's done worse than all other metros in expanding access to services, and he criticized the city for spending more in the richer areas than in townships and informal settlements. And that's very much been a claim that has been dogging the DA within the city of Cape Town for the longest time. Africa Check, which is an independent fact checker, went to go and have a look at all of this, and they find generally that it's unproven because it's potentially unfair on the city given its size in relation to the other metros in South Africa. What do you say to the critics that have always been on this particular political line against the DA-run administration here? And do you have any numbers that would perhaps persuade them otherwise at this point, other than the employment figures or the unemployment figures, which is boding quite well for Cape Town at this time?
So our political opponents will continue to propagate that narrative and to perpetuate it as much as possible because it's the only thing that they have. But it bears no reality to what's actually happening on the ground. The fact is that when services work, they work and meaningfully improve the lives of the poor. The poor actually benefit the most from functional services. So on every single basic service measure, even in the report that the president cited, Cape Town stands head and shoulders above the rest. So you will recall that he chose his words very carefully. He didn't say overall performance. He said increase in services, because if you will it's harder to go from 95 to 99 than it is to go from 50 to 70. So Cape Town stands head and shoulders above the rest in creating the environment where new jobs are created and people get into work, head and shoulders above the rest. In reducing poverty, I think this is actually the most important measure in South Africa. Surely we should judge governments how much they are actually reducing poverty. Well, poverty has gone from 33% to 19% in Cape Town since the DA came to office. So nearly in the next couple of years, I think it will be halved from what it was. While in South Africa, it has unfortunately gone up, not down. So these, on every measure, if you call the fire brigade in a poor community in Cape Town, you get service. If you call a fire brigade in Johannesburg, there isn't a fire brigade. I think they have 3 or 5 working fire engines in the whole city. If you call an ambulance, one answers. If you do that anywhere else, nothing happens. These things make a difference to people's lives. These are the essential services that people rely on. You and I and many middle class South Africans might not rely on those things because we've got other avenues. But when you are poor, when you are living in a township or in a low income community, you rely on public services. And when they work, you get a much better quality of life. When they don't work, then you don't. So I think that debate is closed, frankly. In fact, let me just end with this. The president closed that debate. The president closed that debate when speaking just a month or 2 after the comment that you referred to. He said we should all take a leaf out of Cape Town's book. We should copy what they're doing there in Cape Town because they're clearly getting something right. He told the entire ANC that, which I thought was just a most extraordinary thing. So according to Cyril Ramaphosa, we are the best. There's just one more thing. Recently, one more number to leave you and the viewers with. Recently, the Minister of Housing in the National Assembly released a set of data showing that, in fact, it is Cape Town that has delivered the most government housing, the most free subsidized housing in the whole of South Africa. Not any ANC government. So if you ask a simple question, who cares and who does and delivers more for poorer South Africans? It is the government that reduces unemployment the most, reduces poverty the most, gets people out of informality into houses the most, delivers quality basic services the most. DA, 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 DA. End of debate.
This is it. This is the end. These are quick answers, very quick questions. It's 5. I'm calling it Rauby's round robin. Here we go. Favorite movie?
Gladiator.
Wow. Okay. 1 or 2?
1.
Oh, okay.
1.
Favorite artist?
As in like painter or musician?
Either or.
Coldplay.
Oh, right. Okay. Favorite city in the world?
Cape Town.
Just checking. Are you running to grow the DA or because you want to be president one day?
Both.
And what if you lose this DA race, Jordan? What will you do?
I will carry on doing my absolute best as mayor of Cape Town.
Fantastic. That's Geordin Hill-Lewis. He's running to be the next leader of the Democratic Alliance. Nkosi Kakulu, Kialabo, Danki, Ngiyabonga. I really appreciate your time here on The Lead on News 24.
Such a pleasure. Good to chat, Graeme. Thank you.
And finally,
a quick one now, ending off with On This Day in South African history. That's the 5th of March, 1997. A massive fire destroyed the Munitoria building, a municipal office block in Pretoria, on this day. The blaze spread rapidly. It was already out of control by the time firefighters arrived, according to reports from that era. Now, it took 4 days and 252 firefighters to extinguish the blaze, making it the largest building fire South Africa had experienced at that time. In the end, nothing inside the building could be salvaged. The damage was said to be in the region of more than 350 million rand. Thousands of municipal public records also went up in flames. Well, the building was 44 at the time and had long been considered a fire hazard. Reports indicated it didn't comply with national building regulations. Thankfully, no one died as the fire broke out after working hours, and it remained there until it was finally fully bulldozed in 2013. And we asked in today's Rauby's Pointless Braai quiz, who's the notorious ex-ANC MP on Parliament's Correctional Services Committee who will soon wear orange overalls for pocketing Basasa kickbacks? It's none other than Vincent Smith. As Alex Mitchley, our News 24 journalist, reports, the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg found Smith guilty and sentenced him after he had entered into a plea and sentencing agreement with prosecutors. He'll now spend a direct 7 years behind bars. For more on that story, check out the front page of News 24, so I'm sure it's probably still trending. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit like, follow and subscribe. We're going to bring you more every Thursday. We're calling it Newsmaker Thursdays. So anyone who's really shaping up how a news cycle works, expect them to be grilled right here on The Lead on News 24. My name's Graeme Raubenheimer, and so long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have The Lead.